Amara Osei had exactly 89 days left in Korea. She knew because she'd been counting. Because counting was the only thing keeping her from feeling something she had absolutely no business feeling. She stood at the kitchen counter of the most dangerous penthouse in Seoul, grinding coffee beans the way he liked them. Coarse, dark, brutal, and pretended she didn't hear him enter the room. But her body knew. It always knew. "You're up early," Han Jae-woo said behind her. His voice was low, unhurried, the kind of voice that had ordered executions and closed billion-dollar deals with the same unbothered calm. "The household doesn't run itself, sir," Amara replied without turning around. Silence. Then the sound of him pulling out a chair. Sitting. Watching. She could feel his eyes on her back like a brand. "Stop it," she told herself. "He's your employer. He's dangerous. You have 89 days and then you go home to Accra and you forget this penthouse ever existed." She turned and placed the coffee in front of him. His eyes met hers. Dark, unreadable, and holding something she refused to name. "Thank you, Amara," he said quietly. "Not thank you, Miss Osei. Not thank you, staff." Her name. Always her name. Like it meant something in his mouth. "Of course, sir." She turned away before her face betrayed her. She had no idea that in exactly 24 hours, everything would change. Besties, before we go further, if you're already hooked, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. This community is everything. Now let's get back to Amara and Jae-woo. 6 weeks earlier, Amara Osei stepped off the plane at Incheon International Airport with 3 things. A single suitcase, a legal work visa stamped for exactly 90 days, and a plan that had absolutely nothing to do with falling in love. She was 27 years old, sharp-eyed, and fluent in 4 languages. She had a degree in international finance from the University of Ghana that currently meant nothing because her mother's medical bills had swallowed everything she'd saved and then some. The placement agency had been almost embarrassingly enthusiastic. "Han Jae-woo," the coordinator had said, sliding a folder across the desk. "Highest-paying domestic contract in Seoul. Previous staff turnover is high, but the compensation is exceptional. 3 months, full board, return flight included." Amara had looked at the folder. The number inside had made her breath stop. She signed before she finished reading. What she didn't know, what the folder conveniently left out, was that Han Jae-woo wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He was the youngest head the Bora Syndicate had seen in 40 years. He controlled 6 ports, 3 construction conglomerates, and more politicians than the ruling party. And he hadn't kept a single member of household staff longer than 3 weeks in 2 years. She found that last part out on her first morning. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building that seemed to pierce the clouds. Floor-to-ceiling glass. White marble that reflected light like a second sky. Silence so complete it felt engineered. A woman met her at the elevator. Park Soo-yeon, head of household staff. Efficient, cold, and exhausted in a way that went deeper than tiredness. "Rules," Soo-yeon said, walking briskly. "You don't enter his office without being summoned. You don't speak to his guests unless spoken to. You don't ask personal questions. You don't linger." "Understood," Amara said. "Previous staff forgot those rules," Soo-yeon added. "They didn't last." Amara nodded calmly. She had survived boarding school in Accra, a punishing university scholarship program, and 3 years managing her mother's illness alone. A quiet penthouse with clear rules sounded like rest. She met Han Jae-woo that evening. He walked through the front door at 9 p.m., jacket over one arm, phone pressed to his ear, talking rapidly in Korean. He passed through the living room without pausing, without looking up, without acknowledging her existence. Amara released a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Good, she thought. Invisible was exactly what she needed to be. She was wrong. Day 3. She was reorganizing the pantry when she heard it. A sound so out of place in the clinical perfection of the penthouse that she actually stopped moving. Laughter. Quiet, genuine, slightly surprised, like the person producing it had forgotten they were capable of it. She peered around the kitchen doorframe. Han Jae-woo stood by the window, phone to his ear, and something soft had replaced the iron in his face. He was listening to whoever was on the line with his head tilted slightly, and when he laughed again it changed everything about him. "Don't," Amara warned herself immediately. "Don't you dare humanize him." He turned and caught her staring. She snapped back behind the doorframe, heart slamming. A beat of silence. "You can come out," he said, amusement threading his voice. "I don't bite household staff." Amara stepped out, chin level. "I apologize for the interruption, sir. I was checking inventory." He studied her for a moment, really looked at her the way people rarely did with staff. "You're not afraid of me," he observed. "Should I be?" Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise. Then something quieter. "Most people are," he said. "I'm not most people," Amara replied simply, and went back to the pantry. She didn't see him smile. But Suyin, watching from the hallway, saw everything. "Okay, besties, I need you to be honest in the comments right now. Are you already rooting for Amara? Because same. Don't forget to like this video. It genuinely helps us keep these stories coming. Now back to Seoul. Day 11. The penthouse had a library. Amara discovered it by accident, chasing a cleaning schedule that took her into rooms she hadn't yet mapped. It was smaller than the others, tucked behind the main hallway, lined floor to ceiling with books in Korean, Japanese, English, and what looked like French. She should have noted it, cleaned it, and moved on. Instead, she stood there for 4 full minutes staring at a shelf of West African literature she had absolutely not expected to find in a Korean crime lord's penthouse. Ama Ada Edu, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Aisha Haruna Ada. Her hand lifted before she could stop it. "She's brilliant." Amara spun around. Han Jai was stood in the doorway, jacket discarded, tie loosened, looking at the book in her hand with an expression she couldn't decode. "I didn't hear you come in," she said, embarrassed. "I know." He moved to the shelf, trailing a finger along the spines. "I spent 2 years in Accra. Business. But I read everything I could find." Amara's heart did something inconvenient. "You've been to Ghana," she said carefully. 3 times. His eyes found hers. "It changes you. The light is different there." She didn't know what to do with that. With him standing in a library holding an Ama Ada Edu novel like it was something precious. With the way he said Accra like he meant it. "You should get some rest, sir," she said, setting the book down. "It's late." "Jai Woo," he said quietly. She stilled. "When it's just us," he continued. "Jai Woo is fine." The air in the room shifted completely. "Good night, sir," Amara said firmly, and left before the warmth spreading through her chest could become something she couldn't take back. Day 19. She was on her knees scrubbing the terrace when she overheard the phone call. She wasn't trying to listen, but the terrace doors were cracked, and Han Jaiwa's voice carried, and the words stopped her cold. "The contract ends in 71 days. A pause. "I'm aware, Chairman. The merger timeline stands." Another pause, longer. His voice dropped. "Personal matters don't affect business. They never have." She scrubbed harder. Personal matters. She was a personal matter. A 90-day contract. A line item. She needed to remember that. That night she lay in her small room with its single window overlooking the city and reminded herself of every reason she was here. Her mother's treatment. The debt. The return ticket already booked. She was not here to feel things for a man who moved through the world like a weapon. She closed her eyes and immediately remembered the way he'd said the light is different there. She didn't sleep for a long time. Day 24. The dinner party changed everything. 12 guests. Allied business families. An evening designed to look effortless. Amara moved through it like a ghost, pouring wine, clearing plates, existing in the precise negative space that good household staff occupied. She noticed the guests watching Jaiwoo the way people watch storms. Respectful distance. Calculating eyes. She noticed something else too. One man, seated to Jaiwoo's left, watching her. Not the way the others watched her, dismissively, invisibly. This man watched her with interest that made her skin crawl. Byun Hyun-suk. She'd seen the name in the household calendar. Business associate. Old money. Older grudges. After dinner, he found her in the kitchen. "You're the new one," he said pleasantly. "Yes, sir." She kept her eyes down. "How long is the contract?" 90 days, sir." He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "And after I return home?" He tilted his head. "What if there was a better offer?" Amara looked up then, directly at him. "I'm not sure what you mean," she said evenly. "I think you are," Byung-hyun-suk replied softly, and walked away. Amara stood in the kitchen for a long moment after he left, unease settling deep in her bones. She told herself it was nothing. She was wrong about that too. "Besties, something is coming and I need you to be ready. If this story has you on edge, smash that like button right now. And tell me in the comments, do you trust Byung-hyun-suk? Because I certainly don't. Let's continue. Day 31. "You're distracted," Jae-woo said. They were in the library again. It had become a quiet habit neither of them acknowledged. Late evenings when the penthouse exhaled and the city below pulsed with other people's urgency. They existed in the same space with books between them like a reasonable excuse. "I'm fine," Amara said. "You've read the same page 4 times. She looked up. He was watching her with that careful attention that made her feel simultaneously seen and terrified. "Byung-hyun-suk," she said finally. Something changed in his face. Subtle, but she was good at reading rooms. "What about him?" She told him about the kitchen conversation. Every word, precisely as it happened, the way her training in observation had taught her. Watching her father work as a diplomat's aide long before life rearranged itself into something harder. Jae-woo was very still when she finished. "He said that to you directly," Jae-woo said quietly. "Yes." The stillness became something else. Controlled fury, she recognized it now. The way dangerous men went quiet when they were deciding something. "It won't happen again," he said. "I'm not asking for your protection," Amara replied carefully. "I'm informing you because it happened in your home. I can manage myself." He looked at her for a long moment. "I know you can," he said. "That's not why I'm angry." The silence that followed was the most honest thing that had ever passed between them. Amara looked down at her book. "Good night, Jae-woo," she said softly. She heard him exhale. "Good night, Amara." Day 44. The call came through Suyin, relayed with carefully neutral eyes. "Mr. Han requests your presence in his office." Amara set down the folding she was doing, smoothed her uniform, and knocked twice. "Come in." He was at his desk, jacket on, every inch the syndicate head. Whatever softness existed in the library didn't live in this room. "Sit down," he said. She sat. He slid a document across the desk. She looked at it. Contract extension. 90 additional days. Compensation doubled. Her name already printed at the top. Her chest tightened. "You're offering me an extension," she said carefully. "Yes." "Why?" He met her gaze without flinching. "The household runs better with you here." "The household?" She almost smiled. He was a terrible liar for someone whose entire life depended on deception. "I'll think about it," she said. Something crossed his face. Brief, unguarded. "Amara." "I said I'll think about it." She stood, picked up the document, and left before he could see that her hands were shaking. She sat in her room for an hour staring at the extension contract. Then she called her mother in Accra. "How are you feeling, Mama?" "Better, my darling. The new treatment is working." Pause, warm and knowing. "You sound different. What's happening there?" "Nothing," Amara said. "Everything is fine." Her mother laughed softly. "Amara Grace Osei, I have known you for 27 years. Amara closed her eyes. "I'll call you tomorrow, Mama." She didn't sign the extension that night, but she didn't tear it up either. Day 52. Suyin found her in the laundry room, voice low and urgent. "I need to tell you something, and you cannot tell him I told you." Amara set down the linens. "What is it?" "Byung-hyun-suk." Suyin's hands twisted together. "He's been making inquiries. About you specifically. Your contract end date. Your agency. Whether you have family here." Cold moved through Amara slowly. "What kind of inquiries?" "The kind that cost money." Suyin's eyes were frightened. He's done it before. There was a girl 2 years ago. Filipino. Her contract ended and 3 days later she disappeared. They said she took another position privately. But she didn't, Amara said flatly. Suyin shook her head. Amara was quiet for a long moment. Every analytical part of her brain was already moving, calculating exits, timelines, options. Does Jae-woo know? He knows Hyun-suk is dangerous. He doesn't know about the girl. He doesn't know about you. Suyin grabbed her arm. You need to leave. Before your contract ends. Before Hyun-suk. I'm not running, Amara said quietly. Suyin stared at her. I've never run from anything in my life, Amara continued calmly. And I'm not starting now. She picked up the linens. But thank you, she said, for telling me. Okay, I need everyone in the comments to tell me. Is Amara the most capable woman you've ever encountered in a story like this? Because I am in awe of her. Like this video if you're writing for Amara right now. Let's keep going. Day 58. She told Jae-woo everything. Not in the library. In the kitchen at 6 a.m. before the household woke. Direct, clean, every detail laid out the way she imagined soldiers reported intelligence. No emotion. No asking for help. Just information he needed to have. When she finished, he was gripping the edge of the counter. He's been watching you for weeks, Jae-woo said. His voice was very quiet. Yes. In my home. Yes. He turned around. His face was controlled but his eyes were not. Why are you only telling me now? Because I needed to confirm it myself first. I don't bring half information. He stared at her. You were investigating him. Alone. It's what I know how to do. Amara. Something broke in his voice slightly. Just slightly. He's not a man you investigate quietly. If he'd realized. He didn't. He could have. But he didn't. She met his eyes steadily. I'm standing here. I'm fine. He crossed the kitchen in 3 steps and stopped directly in front of her. Close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw, the controlled fear beneath the fury. Don't do that again, he said quietly. Not alone. Not without telling me. You're my employer, she said. Not my. I know what I am, he interrupted softly. I know exactly what I am to you. I'm asking you anyway. The kitchen was very silent. Okay, she said finally. He exhaled. Neither of them moved for a long moment. Then he stepped back, and the world rearranged itself back into something manageable. I'll handle Hyun-suk, he said. I know you will, she replied. But I already started. He blinked. She slid a folder across the counter. 3 weeks of documentation, photographs, financial transfers, names connected to a trafficking network that went significantly higher than Byun Hyun-suk. Jae-woo opened it slowly. The silence that followed was the loudest thing she'd ever heard. Who are you? He asked quietly. Not suspicious. Genuinely wondering. Someone who pays attention, she said simply. Day 67. Byun Hyun-suk made his move at a council meeting. Amara wasn't present. She was in the penthouse, listening through a connection she'd established in Jae-woo's earpiece. His suggestion, after the kitchen conversation. His way of keeping her close without breaking his own rules about what she was to him. She heard everything. The maid, Hyun-suk said pleasantly when business concluded. The African one. I'd like to discuss acquiring her contract. Dead silence around the table. Her contract isn't for sale, Jae-woo said, his voice perfectly even. Everything has a price, Jae-woo. Not this. Amara's hand pressed flat against the kitchen counter. She's just staff, Hyun-suk pressed. Temporary. What's the attachment? A long pause. Final answer, Jae-woo said. There are other ways to acquire things, Hyun-suk said softly. When contracts expire. The silence that followed lasted exactly 4 seconds. Gentlemen, Jae-woo said calmly. We're done for the evening. Amara let out a breath. Then her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your contract ends in 23 days. Start packing, African girl. She stared at it. Then she forwarded it to the folder she'd been building for weeks, added it to the chain of evidence and sent everything, every document, every transfer, every name, to 3 separate secure locations. Insurance. She'd learned from the best after all. Day 78. He knocked on her door at midnight. In 3 months, he had never knocked on her door. She opened it. He stood in the hallway, tie loosened, looking like a man who had been arguing with himself for hours and lost. "The extension contract," he said without preamble. "You never signed it." "No." "Why?" She studied him. This man who controlled armies and couldn't control the way he looked at her. Who ran a criminal empire and knocked on a maid's door at midnight like a man who had run out of other options. "Because a contract isn't the reason to stay," she said quietly. Something moved through his face. "Then what is?" The question hung between them like a held breath. "Ask me something real, Jaiwoo," she said softly. "Not about contracts." He was quiet for a long moment. The city hummed below. The penthouse breathed around them. "Stay," he said finally. His voice was bare, stripped of every layer of power and performance. "Not as staff, not on paper. Just stay. Because this place makes no sense without you in it. Because I haven't slept properly in weeks. Because every room you're not in feels like something's missing, and I don't know what to do with that." He exhaled. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "I don't know how to ask for things I actually want. I've never had to." Amara looked at him for a long moment. "You're doing fine," she said quietly. "Is that a yes?" "That's a keep going," she replied. Something that might have been the beginning of a smile crossed his face. "I've spent 11 years building something I don't want to come home to," he said. "And then you arrived and started grinding my coffee wrong." "Course is correct," she interrupted firmly. "And reading in my library without asking. The books were there. And looking at me like I'm a person instead of a problem to be managed." His voice dropped. "And I realized I had no idea what to do with that. With you." Amara's chest ached in the best possible way. "You're still my employer," she said. "Not if you don't sign the contract. You're still dangerous." "Yes. Your world is complicated. Extremely. I have a mother in Accra who needs me. I have a plane," he said simply. "She can have the best doctors in Seoul. In the world. Whatever she needs." Amara stared at him. "That's not. You can't just." "I know," he said. "I know it's too much. I know I'm too much. You can tell me to close this door and we never speak of it, and I will respect that completely." He paused. "But I needed you to know." The hallway was very quiet. "Jaiwoo," she said. "Yes. You're going to need to deal with Byun Hyun-suk first." He blinked. "Before anything else," she continued, "I need to know the network I helped you expose is dismantled. Completely. Every name. Every connection." "It will be," he said immediately. "I need to see it." "You will. And my mother. Whatever she needs. No conditions attached." Amara studied his face for a long time. Every instinct she had trained, tested, hardened by years of doing hard things alone, told her he meant every word. "Then close the door," she said quietly. His face fell. "From the outside," she added. "And meet me in the library in 10 minutes. He stilled, then understood. 10 minutes, he said. "Besties, besties. If you felt that I need you to comment right now, tell me what Amara said that broke you open. And if you're not subscribed yet, please, for the love of this story, subscribe right now. We are building something special here together." Day 79. Byun Hyun-suk was arrested at 6 a.m. Not by the syndicate, by federal investigators who had been quietly building a case for 2 years and suddenly received an anonymous package containing everything they needed to close it. Amara drank her coffee and watched the news with perfectly neutral expression. Jaiwoo sat across from her at the kitchen counter, watching her watch the news. "Anonymous tip," he said. "Apparently," she agreed. "Weeks of documentation, financial records, victim testimonies. Thorough work." "Amara," she looked at him. "You said you'd handle it. I made sure it was handled correctly." She set down her cup. He needed to go through the law, not through you. Because if it went through you, your hands are dirty and everything built on this moment becomes complicated. He stared at her. You protected me, he said slowly. From my own solution. Someone has to, she said simply. He was quiet for a long time. The council meets tonight, he said finally. I'm going to tell them about us. Amara raised an eyebrow. There's an us now? There has been since day 11, he said. We both know it. She almost smiled. The library, he confirmed. She looked at her coffee cup. They won't accept it easily. No. It will cost you alliances. Yes. You've thought about this. I've thought about very little else for 6 weeks. Amara was quiet. Outside, Seoul was waking up, indifferent to the revolution quietly occurring in a penthouse kitchen. I'm not a prize, she said. I'm not a statement or a rebellion or a symbol of anything. I'm a person. I know, he said. That's why. She looked at him then, really looked at him. The tiredness beneath his eyes, the careful stillness of someone who had spent years not asking for anything. The way he held her gaze without flinching even though she could see exactly what it cost him. Okay, she said. Okay. Tell the council. She stood, picked up her cup. I'll be there. He blinked. You don't have to. If they're going to accept this, she said firmly, they accept it with me in the room, not after, not reported to them. In the room. He looked at her like she'd just rearranged everything he understood about what strength looked like. In the room, he agreed quietly. The council meeting was exactly as tense as she expected. 7 men around a table who had built their power on the predictability of their world, looking at the woman standing beside Han Jaiwoo like she was a crack in the foundation. You're serious, one elder said flatly. I'm always serious, Jaiwoo replied. She's staff. She's foreign. She's responsible for dismantling a trafficking network that had penetrated 3 of your family's operations without your knowledge. Jaiwoo's voice was pleasant. She's the reason Byun Hyun-suk is in federal custody instead of a position to blackmail half this table. He paused. I choose your next word carefully. Silence. Amara stood straight, hands folded, meeting every eye that found hers without dropping her gaze. I am not invisible, she thought clearly. I never was. You just weren't paying attention. She stays, Jaiwoo said. That's not a discussion. One elder leaned back slowly, studied her. You speak Korean, he said finally. For languages, she replied in perfect Korean. Something shifted around the table. Not acceptance. Not yet. But the beginning of recalculation. She could work with recalculation. Day 89. Her original contract expired at midnight. She didn't notice until Jaiwoo set a cup of coffee in front of her in the library. Her coffee. The way she liked it, he'd learned without asking, and said quietly, Today. I know, she said. Are you? I'm staying, she said. I decided on day 78. You know that. I needed to hear it again, he admitted. She looked up at him. This man who had knelt for nothing and no one in 11 years and would have knelt for her if she'd asked. Who had stood before a council of dangerous men and refused to negotiate her. Who had learned how she took her coffee and brought it to her without announcement. I'm staying, she said again, softer this time. He exhaled, set his own cup down, sat in the chair beside her instead of across from her, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched, and opened his book. She opened hers. Outside, Seoul hummed and glittered in the dark. Inside, something fragile and certain existed in the space between 2 people who had both spent too long surviving alone. Jaiwoo, she said after a while. The coffee is perfect. He smiled. She felt it more than saw it. Don't tell me how you take it, he said. I want to figure it out. She laughed. Quietly. Real. And for the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like something to survive. Felt like something to build. Oh besties. We made it. And if this story wrecked you in the best possible way, I need 3 things from you right now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. What was your favorite moment? Was it the kitchen at midnight? The council room? Or day 11 in the library when everything quietly began? Tell me. I read every single one. And I'll see you in the next story.